Welcome to the Pathways Wrap, brought to you by Darryl Lee. There was a couple of games played over the weekend by our mighty South Sydney Rabbitohs, and the first one was the Harold Mathews, and it was all played all the way down there in Melbourne. And mate, tough hunting ground for us, as you know. We hardly win a game down there in any grade, but we're lucky enough to come away with a 24 points to 18 win over the Storm, and it was all one-way traffic in the first half. We led 18-0. With tries to Zane Hill, who was really dominant in that first half, the crafty little hooker. And also tries to big Keon, the lock, scored a nice try himself. Antelete and Tatul Kafa scored a nice try too, the bench forward. And late in the game, it was Matty Lungy. But look, the Storm pounced back. They came all the way back from 18-0 down. About 10, 15 minutes in the second half, they scored 3 tries off South Sydney errors, which would have been disappointing. They're all kick errors. And they were able to screw it up at 18, and the boys were able to steady the ship, get it down the other end. A little mix-up at dummy half. We didn't have a dummy half there, and Matty Lungy just jumped in a dummy half, the big number 10, and crashed over to beat 3 Storm players to get the try. But it was good enough for the victory. I mean, it doesn't matter how you do it. 18-10, probably not. I mean, 18-0 up, but to only win 20-18, there's something to work for on the coach. But when you look at it defensively, I thought they were strong. Besides, obviously, the kick errors, they've only let in a couple of tries all year when it comes to a goal line defence. So there's something for the coaches to be happy about. I thought Jimmy Davies, another strong game. The number 7, tough as nails, good defender. In the forwards, I mentioned him already. Matty Lungy just rolls up the sleeves. Carberry, the other front row, was strong. But look, the player of the match for me, he's so classy, this number 6, and they've got to keep him, is Peyton Tarau, the number 6. He set up a try of some soft hands for Keone, the lock. He's just got a nice little soft touch with the kicks. Quite a thick little solid fellow. I think he's got a rugby union background. I'm really hoping we can keep this bloke. But again, it was a strong performance by our Harold Mathews team. And though they've got to go and play the Magpies next week, who are coming first, 10 a.m. They're at Kirkham Oval. So if you're out in the western suburbs out there, go and get behind our boys. 2-0, the Harold Mathews side. Now, going straight into the next game was at the same oval down there in Melbourne. It was the SG Ball. They won 34 points to 22 over the Melbourne Storm. And I don't think you have to look too far to know that it was the Matthew Humphreys and Yasin Kusku show. And those boys were, they're just very, very impressive. Obviously, Yasin Kusku is the fullback, explosive fullback. He made a lot of line breaks and tackle breaks, scored a couple of tries. There's even one where I think we bombed it. He got a 2-on-1 with a little out-in ball around the ruck. He was able to gap him in the first half, and we put the ball down there. Probably should have left a couple of tries out. The Storm, they led 18-0 again, a bit like that, the Harold Mathews team. They fought back with a couple of tries, the Storm. They're a good side, the Melbourne Storm. Big units they are, a bit like their first grade, very big and strong. I was quite impressed with the fullback, Amazai Murga, young bloke. He had the bleached sort of orange hair there. Geez, he was strong. Set up that last try for him at the back. The big number 12, Mary Milford, he's a big unit. He's certainly a handful, but look, our forwards paved the way there for the boys out the backs, and defense in the middle. Johannes Logan, he's a firebrand. This front row, I love the look of him. He carts it up all day. You got a different style front rower, Maddox Philly, a bit more of a footworky front rower. I think he'll end up a back rower, more of an edge player, but he's quite agile. He hasn't got a bad motor either. Harrison Rook gets through a lot of work. The bench forward, Elijah Keung, he had another strong outing. He's a handful when he comes off the bench and gets their legs pumping. They get a bit of impact off the bench. Tyler Berriman jumps in at hooker to spell out Cody Hill, who's a strong defender, really, really strong young player. And look, in the outside backs, it's Dane Jennings. They did a dropout late in the game, and he was able to wrong foot him and set up his outside winger, Jacob Fong, for a try at the back end. But yeah, Matthew Humphreys, the number 7, who's just done a full preseason with first grade. This kid is so classy. Every time you see him, you cannot be more impressed. His kicking game was outstanding. Just put into the corners. He did a nice little double pump to put Yasin Kusku through a hole. Look, if you get a chance, jump on Rabbitohs Radio podcast here. Have a look at some of the shorts. I put up a couple of shorts of Humphreys and Kusku combining. There was another one where he created space by getting outside his man, digging in, putting it out the back for Kusku, who doesn't need a lot of room. I think it's 2 weeks in a row he scored a very similar try off the scrum base. He seems to be able to get outside his man between the centre and the winger and score. So, you look, another very impressive performance from the SG Ball side, sitting right out on top of the competition. And look, a special mention there to the 5'8" Tarsha Alvarez. He's a good young player too. I think he could be from up on the Central Coast. I could be wrong, but yeah, the boys are travelling well there so far. And the ball's out in front on the table, coming first. And our Harold Mathews side, they're sitting 4th. So look, it's only early in the season. They've both got to go up and play the Maggies this week. And yeah, look, we never know. You never know what's going to happen. Over to the girls. Lisa Fioala, that's the under-17s, Lisa Fioala. They played pretty tough. Scored a couple of barge over tries early, and it looked good, but the Dragons kicked out to a one-try lead. They scored the next 2 tries, and then we clawed our way back, and yeah, it was just a late try to the Dragons there that cost them. But look, they haven't won a game there. Unfortunately, it's to start the season, the Fioala, but look, you can't say they're not trying their guts out. They've got a bye this week. Also, Tarsha Gale come up with a really good win. I'm happy for the girls. They both come off tough outings in Newcastle in round 1. But to bounce back there with a 22-18 win, that's a real confidence booster for our Tarsha Gale girls. And they're going to get a lot of confidence out of that going forward. They've both got to leave, so they'll probably do a pretty tough week of training this week, I reckon. Try and build that base fitness and move into that round 4. But, yep, there's the Pathways wrap brought to you by Darryl Lee. Thank you for joining us here on Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. Up the mighty Rabbitohs.